G'day guys and welcome to Ask a Pathfinder's product review. If you're joining me right now live, then I do apologize. As some very observant people have noticed in the chat, I was in fact completely and utterly inaudible. So that's me learning technology and failing quite abruptly. But to get straight to the point, what we are going to be doing today is we are going to be doing a product review of the new Starfinder Armory that hit shelves this month. Now, in regards to the product reviews, I'm going to be doing all the new stuff as it comes out for Starfinder, and I'm also going to be doing a backlog on all the previous stuff as well, so be tuned in for that. But for Pathfinder, I will be doing reviews for only 2nd ed for the time being, so take a look at that when that gets into it. Alright. Without any further ado, let's talk about the Starfinder Armory. So, first and foremost, let me say that this book here is definitely a must-have if you are running a long-term Starfinder campaign. If you are getting into the Starfinder game for the first time, of course, welcome to the game, and, I hope you like sci-fi. But it is not essential like it is, obviously, with the core. But at the same time, if you know you're going to keep playing Starfinder, if you know you're going to continue your adventures with, the system, then you definitely want to pick up this book. There's just so much stuff regarding weapons, armor, gear, and all of that you would really be hurting your game to not pick up this book. All right, let's talk about what's in it. Why is it worth this, and why am I shouting its praises before I've even told you about what's in it? All right, first and foremost, let's look at weapons. Weapons are just the flavor of this book. There are just so many. In fact, there are 52 pages dedicated solely to weapons. Now, this includes obviously the weapon types, the weapon accessories, and the fusions, and all this other stuff. But 52 pages is a sizable amount of content when you're looking at just weapons. I remember when I was reading this for the first time, it was like 2 a.m., and honestly, I just kept going to myself, God, is the weapons section going to end? Why is there just more weapons? Weapons. Don't get me wrong, I was super excited about it, but I was like, oh my God. So some of the stuff you can look forward to are things like utility functions for your weapons. Now, a lot of people have approached me regarding Starfinder and said, hey Michael, look, I'm really into the system, but I think it's really boring playing something like a soldier, where all I get to do is just fire and exchange damage. That's just so boring. Well, fear not, because the weapons section here comes with a plethora of new utility abilities that allow weapons to do much more than simply exchange damage. There are new functions such as gravitational, which allows you to push and pull enemies with your attacks. There is also the ability to break down weapons and hide them in your cheek pouches. Fire indirect bullets, so that if you are sniping, you can pretend like you're coming from somewhere else. Even change the trajectory of line and area effect abilities from your weapons. Just some of the really cool and awesome functions that are now available from this book. Now, regarding, some little tiny extra nuggets that are here, I've noticed that Starfinder likes to mix in its mechanics with its story and lore, and it doesn't shirk away from that in this book either, with the introduction of manufacturers. So if you are looking at, say, like an economy in your setting, there is actually a series of manufacturers that will allow you to gain bonuses and privileges based on who you are dealing with in regards to what you want to buy. If you go and talk to the cybernetics dealers, you get a discount on that stuff, but they charge you extra for things like, power armor, for example, and vice versa. So, like, the idea that they've sort of touched in on this this lore as well as this mechanic stuff really does make it for a very interesting read when it comes to your gear and equipment. So that's enough gushing about weapons. Let's talk armor. I was admittedly a little bit disappointed with armor, mostly because I wanted more. I just finished reading Weapons, 50 pages, and I was so pumped, really jazzed up for this whole thing, and the armor section was a little bit lacking. There was a few really good and powerful armors, mind you, but definitely thought there could have been a few more. Power armors were probably the most notable here, because a lot of people have had concerns about power armor. especially when playing muscle-bound melee characters who want to wear power armor to add their defense, but then they realize, well, hang on a second. I wear light armor underneath my power armor, and I only get the higher of the two armor classes. So why would I do that instead of just wearing heavy armor? Why am I in power armor? Shouldn't power armor be more powerful? Well, this is kind of true, but the thing about power armor is it's more designed to either boost up those people who aren't able to, sort of go into melee and clobber things into next Tuesday, or it's supposed to be something that offers a sense of utility. So if you do want to play around with power armor and stuff like that with your strength-based character, by all means. But what you get provided in this book and what you get provided in the game are a bunch of really interesting utility functions for your power armors. So the power armors aren't, going to fix the problem that some people have come up to me about, but instead it's going to show you that there are just so many different utilities that you want to have in your power armor, and you definitely want to keep a nice wardrobe of these very cool items in your ship at all times, because yeah, it's really cool and a lot of fun. Okay, so upgrades. Now, there are a score of upgrades for both your weapons and your armor and things like that. Probably my favorite upgrade for the armor has to be the CPR machine. I just found it tickled me. If you get brought down to 0, it basically expends its charge to bring you back as if you'd spent the resolve. Now, I know that's a very simple mechanic, but ever since I watched like the CW's Flash a while back, I was so keen on the idea of this CPR machine that just sort of goes and brings you back to life. It just, I don't know, just something about it just makes me laugh, because it's like, well, no one really says clear when it happens from your suit. So, if you go down and you're wearing your suit with the CPR attachment to it, and someone's like, okay, I'm going to make a medicine check real quick. And off they go. I don't know. I'm kind of Schadenfreude. I like Schadenfreude. As for the weapons, probably the most notable attachments that I really liked were, of course, the scopes and things like that, because I do enjoy sniping. A couple of things that really stood out was, of course, there's a indirect sniper rifle that allows you to basically fire from concealment, break your stealth, and then re-enter stealth, but it reduces the penalty to re-enter stealth because it sort of redirects the bullet and, makes it an indirect shot. So I kind of like that. I like the idea of that, and having different scopes that give you various benefits, also very useful. So, all right, so armor, power armor, augmentations. Okay, this was the real reason I bought this book. Augmentations. I love the idea of playing a science fiction game, especially when you get to augment your stuff, when you get to put on like cybernetic gear and the biotechnologies and all of that sort of stuff. I love it, and it's great. And there was just so much really fun and interesting bits of equipment that you could actually attach to your own character. Probably the most notable one for me was the X-Legs, which was this, like, basically this Centaurian type rig that you fix to your legs and, walks you around like a spider, which, just for me, like, that's cool. That's awesome. I mean, that's so why some of us, like, enjoy things like Shadowrun, is the idea of this augmented technology interacting with us. Now, we're already familiar with biotechnology, which is obviously organic augmentations, such as symbiotes and things like that. The cybernetic technology, which is, of course, things like having a hidden weapon in your prosthetic limb, which now you can. There are now 2 new things which at least I hadn't come across at that point, which was, of course, Magitech, which is kind of like your hybridized magic items mixed with, technology items that grafted onto you. And, of course, necrographs, which is where you, well, as the name implies, use necromantic magic to attach unliving flesh to you. I was always a fan of Necrocraft. I think it's really cool. The stuff that they've started with was very simple. You've got an enervating touch hand, you've got ghoul glands, you've got a whole bunch of different things here. Fun, interesting, vivid, but, again, it's kind of one of those things where, you kind of kept wanting more from it. the last few chapters are pretty much all about, like, you know, getting new technology, hybridizing your items, like the magic item stuff, the personal items, drugs, medicines, poisons, adventuring gear, stuff like that. Which is fine, you know, it was good. It's nice to have like some semblance of what the economy is, because, you know, now you actually have an idea of what you can buy. More importantly, vehicles were very important. I do enjoy vehicle combat, probably a little bit more than the starship combat. That's just my personal taste. So having a larger array of vehicles to be able to use was a welcome surprise. I thought that, you know, what they had currently, you know, were good, but these things, and being able to actually augment them with the weapons that are in the actual book, just open up a whole plethora of really cool ideas. Like, I've already got this idea for a Jeep that has breaching weapons on the side of it, so it basically is used to ram gates and destroy doors and, you know, basically do what SWAT riot vehicles are capable of doing. All right, class options. What do we know about class options? Well, there are a few different things for each of the individual classes, which I'll go through right now. Important thing to note is that the way that Starfinder is written, the class features are very interchangeable, and you really need to find something that picks your style. All of these things that I'm going to discuss now are styled around equipment and gear. So if you're looking for something weird, wacky, and wonderful, you probably won't find it. But if you're looking for stuff that'll synchronize with what equipment you have, then yeah, this is what we've got. So first and foremost, let's take a look here. Okay. So the first thing you have is the augmented archetype. Now, this, of course, as I mentioned before, is a big win for me because, again, I love the idea of cybernetics. These guys here allow you to change out class features in order to favor upon and build up on your augmentations. The first ability itself is probably the most vital if you want to play an augmenter, because of course things cost money. You know, not everyone can afford to go and put out cybernetic limbs on their characters and things like that. So you know, what's the catch on this? Well, with favored augmentation at second level, basically you can select one system of your body, and whenever you purchase or install any augmentation to that area, you get a 50% discount. Now, that's great. That's fantastic. That means that you can actually actively augment yourself without needing to sort of break your bank in order to do so. At some point or another during this archetype, you also start to be able to, well, I suppose, hybridize with your gear as your resolve points start to mix and interact with the charges that you can hold within your weapons and gear. And I think there's a lot to be said about you know, what you would be able to create from this alternate class, depending on, of course, who you attach it to. I have definitely got my eyes set on an augmented Technomancer, so if I play that, and I'll let you guys know how that ran. But yeah, the augmented archetype is definitely a worthwhile archetype for cybernetic fans like myself. All right, the Envoy improvisations, you get a few more here, which basically like traits and abilities that the Envoy is able to use. More commands, more things that will you know, obviously manipulate their fellow comrades into spurring into action, telling them to brace for impact, or coordinate their reload time so that they can actually fire in proper sequence, are just some of the really cool things that an Envoy is now picking up. It really is taking on more of a military side of military angle, where it is now capable of not just sort of doing what the bard is kind of accused of and just sort of sitting back and playing a ukulele while everyone's kind of dying. It's now being that tactical leader and that tactical response person. You even get different expertise talents, which include things like battlefield medic, demolition expert, and tech familiarity, so that you can adapt to any situation that you need on the battlefield as, you know, part of this group. Next up, we have the mechanic, which probably does have a fair bit to it, which of course include a whole bunch of new mechanic tricks that pretty much come around modifying, changing, and building weapons and armor and equipment. You also have a few new drone mods, so you can actually basically modify your drones so that you can get a little bit more out of them. One of my favorite ones, which if I've got this here, was the grease dispenser that you can now attach to your drone, which of course will opt for a few very interesting getaways if you have that kind of, kind of like those really old, 1990 cop shows where, you're running and the drone's behind you and you're slippering on the grease, and, I like kind of stuff like that. I like corny. The Mystics. So the Mystic was really cool because it came with a new connection. The new connection is now called the Gene Thurge, which is basically a life science and medicine type thing where they look at modifying themselves with biotechnology. I found that interesting because, like the idea of the symbiotes, for example, have been kind of interesting and built upon well in this book. A couple of new spells: detect augmentation, reject augmentation, and that kind of allows it to really, sort of explore the idea of being a augmented character by your cybernetics or an augmented character by your biotech, having something entirely, having an entirely biological augmented character class, I think really is something that the game needs, much like Aliens. You need to have it in science fiction. Also, a very big hello to our friends over at Totally Legit Gaming who have popped in to say hi, as well as everyone else who is in the stream. If there's something you want me to look up in the book right now while you guys are in chat, do just leave a comment. I'll answer questions and stuff like that towards the end. And yeah, you guys can find out a little bit extra what's in here. All right, so the operative exploits. So again, you've got a whole bunch of operative abilities. Most of this is about handling your weapons. So things like concealing your weapons, sabotaging weapons, reloading. One of the more amusing ones is, of course, now Pistol Whip is officially, that's right, guys, Pistol Whip is officially an ability where you can literally smack people with the butt of your gun. Being able to aim fast, ricochet your bullets, like if you've ever watched Wanted with Angelina Jolie, like the curve bending bullet thing, yeah, you can do all of that sort of stuff. And you have a new specialization called Gadgeteering, which is fundamentally all about like using your quick wit and paranoia in order to try and always have kind of the right tool for the job at any given time. Solarians. Now the Solarians are basically, you have new stellar revelations, so more abilities that you can use whilst channeling the powers of the cosmos, as it were. Whereas these ones are more about sort of what you can build and what you can construct from the powers that you get given. You can create electrical signals, waves, sort of particle fields, fortify your solar armor, things like that. It sort of adds some of the stuff that you get if you were to have weapons or armor to the abilities of your Solarian. You also get a new revelation. A revelation called the Zenith Revelation, which is basically like, how can I even put it? Science. No. Basically, like these thousands of these like sort of tiny little nodes get used in place of your kind of moat type thing. It functions similar to a swarm, like a particle wave, and can deal damage and attack and do all that sort of thing. If you are gravity attunement, you can basically, it says here, and I'm going to quote this. When you are fully graviton attuned, you pull creatures out of the normal confines of space and time. Now, when people say that to me, and, I'm looking at this right now, when people say the Solarian, I always think, every time I hear their abilities, it always kind of is less than as dramatic as whoever writes the Solarian makes it to seem. Like the black hole ability is not creating a black hole, but it just sounds super cool. Same sort of thing with them. As for what it actually is, it's kind of like a controlling type of thing mixed with just a varying flavor to what we already understand the Solarian's abilities to be. Okay. Soldier. The soldier gets a whole bunch of gear boosts. Now, there are tons of these, and I'm not going to go through them all, but these guys definitely saw a lot of love from this book, with everything from being unarmed to running around and headbutting people, to basically being this massive power-armored bulwark. The soldiers got a ton of stuff, and they've got a new fighting style called Shock and Awe, which is a mix of basically just running in and obliterating the enemy. My favorite one here, and this is kind of close to my home, Explosive Entrance. As a swift action, on the first turn of combat as a reaction after being subject to a critical hit, you can spend a resolve to cause your armor, weapons, and other devices to flash with brilliant lights and blare loudly, causing creatures within an area 10 foot to gain your choice of either flat-footed or off-target until the end of your next turn. Now, I love that idea that basically, after you getting hit, this alarm gets set off like an emergency vehicle. Like, you know, if someone were to critical hit you and then all of a sudden everything suddenly goes, please step away from the power armor. You have been detected as an unauthorized figure. You know, boom, 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 boom. It amuses me. Lastly, the Technomancer. Now, the Technomancer has a whole bunch of new magical hacks, which include being able to fabricate explosives, which is a lot of fun, enchant fusions, things like that, and a couple of new spells. Animate armor, electroplating, and incompetence, which I feel is cast on some of my players permanently sometimes. So that, in a nutshell, is everything that you get from the Starfinder Armory. So now let's just take a quick moment to have a look at the score here, which I'm now doing by hand because I don't have an editor, because I have to do this all by myself. Okay, boom. Okay, what is the score on the Armory? Well, I base things on some very simple criteria. Number one, is it original? Of course it's original. It's one of the brand new books for a science fiction setting, which of course means that a lot of the ideas there are first-time ideas that are building up and expanding upon a world that is still fresh and new. So in terms of originality, there's definitely a lot of original ideas here, while at the same time leaning on some very familiar tropes that we will come to know if we enjoy the science fiction genre. Number two is interchangeability. Now, this refers to when a a book is released. How can I use this? Can I use this in a lot of my systems? Do I have to use it in Pathfinder? Do I have to, or Starfinder? Or can I use it anywhere? Honestly, this book can be used in any Starfinder game, in any system. There is no specifics to it. Even the manufacturers, who are very lore-heavy, are not restricted by just the setting stuff. You can easily interchange the actual organizations with whatever might suit your needs. So that's really cool. So that's really high marks on that one. Next up is value. Now, for us in the good old land of Oz, the retail value here is around about $80 for a hard copy book. Honestly, this is definitely one of those books like the core rulebook that you want to pick up. So in terms of value and looking at that, the art's beautiful, and being able to actually flick through it and see some of the actual power armors and see some of the weapons definitely helps visualize these kind of objects and creations in your game. And I think yeah, for the value that you get, if you don't get the Armory as a hard copy, 100% definitely pick this up as a PDF. Like, without a question, if you play Starfinder, it is worth the PDF 100%. Last and foremost is, of course, the well, basically, like, how much do we get? How much do you as a player get to be able to use, to create and to develop a versatile character? This obviously scores maximum points because, of course, that's what this book is. It's about being able to customize and develop your character. So the score that I'm going to give today, out of a total score of 5 Mindworms, is, of course, the solid and absolute highest ranking of 5 mind worms, which is really reflective of just how important I think the Armory is to your Starfinder collection. Thank you guys for tuning in and joining. If you have any questions, again, this is your last chance to put it in before we wrap up. A big shout out, of course, to the people at Paizo. Now, again, no sponsorship yet, but, you know, everyone keep banging on their doors and telling them that I exist. No, I did love this book, and they've done an amazing job, and I do want to acknowledge that even amongst everything that has been going on with Pathfinder 2nd Ed, they've still managed to release what I think to be a really terrific book that definitely reinvigorated my interest in Starfinder. Now, I've not really been a big science fiction fan in the long run, but I have to say that I really enjoyed everything that this book had to present me in terms of what I can now do with Starfinder that I originally couldn't. Again, like, I wanted to play a cybernetic fist fighter with robotic arms and stuff like that, but it's like, well, at level 1 you can't really do that. Oh, okay. I want to play a SWAT team leader who's got power armor and can, like, barrel through doors and stuff. You can't really do that either. Now, with the Armory available, there's just so much more that you can achieve with the game with very little effort. So, all right, well, there doesn't seem to be any questions. So with that, from me at Ask a Pathfinder, thank you very much, guys, for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you like the reviews being live, do let me know in the comments below. If you'd rather see me make this as a separate video, do let me know as well, because I do those a lot better than apparently I do live videos, because I don't stuff up my audio and spend half my time going, "It's this thing on. Or do I have to push the red button? Oh, where's the red button?" Yeah, no, I don't know. For some reason, I'm good at most things, but I'm dottery when it comes to this sort of stuff. So, yeah, just let us know in the comments below. And if you want me to review something specific, also let me know as well, because like I said, will be reviewing all the Starfinder stuff from here on in. But I won't be attempting any of the 1E Pathfinder stuff, at least until stuff settles down with 2nd Ed. So until next time, guys, from me at Ask a Pathfinder, if you want to check me out, head over to Facebook at facebook.com/AskAPathfinder, or if you want to chat with me directly, come to Discord and say hi at discord.me/AskAPathfinder. If you want to support us and make sure that my basically my stable of very valued editors and all that are well paid for and happy, go visit us on our Patreon page and become one of our cheeky goblins. We have basically rewards ranging from $1 a month, where you'll get a big thank you and your name will get on each and every one of our recorded videos, and of course right the way up to $60, where you will be invited to play a game with me. With Pathfinder version 2 up on the horizon, I will be running a Pathfinder version 2 playtest of my original design with my $60 Patreon. So if you are interested in that, it's definitely something to look forward to. And till next time, guys, as always, from me here at Ask a Pathfinder, thank you very much for joining us. And as always, keep your dice rolling and make sure your ideas stay mindworm free. Have a good one.